What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. And today we are going to dig into some Etsy news, but also we're going to talk about the recent chatter that's happening in our community for Etsy sellers about all of the threats that have been, that they've been happening or that people are feeling as they're happening. We're going to talk about those. We're going to address those and see if they're really threats that we need to be concerned with. The other thing we're going to talk about, and probably more exciting, is the opportunities. Is there still opportunity there on Etsy? And I'll just cut to the chase and tell you, yes, there's plenty. And I'm going to share with you what they are. Now, if you are just selling t-shirts or mugs and that's what you want your business to be, I'll tell you, you're probably going to struggle. That is not our model. That is not what I would recommend. So if that is your model, you might want to pay attention here because I'm going to show you why that's probably not going to be a good thing moving forward if you're just focusing on Etsy. All right. So that's everything that we're going to be talking about. We also, like I said, we have some Etsy news stuff that we want to talk about. I also want to bring up something that, I've been ranting about here lately, and it has to do with SEO and Etsy and sellers and really what sellers are focusing on when in reality, they're focusing on the wrong thing. So that's something else we're going to be talking about here shortly. All right. So with that all being said, Chris Schaefer's in the house. What is happening? Are you good? I can't see you. I see you're dancing, but there he is. Now he's dancing and everyone can see how bad of a dancer he is.
I'm very, very white. Like, this is not a surprise to anybody, right? I'm basically transparently white. But yeah, Scott, it's funny. You and I have been covering a lot of things that have been going on in the Etsy and e-commerce ecosystem over the last few weeks. And people are saying, oh, like, so Etsy's dead, right? Like that seems to be the implication. Like, hey, you guys are pointing out some of these things that you think Etsy is missing the mark on. And so it must mean that you don't think that there's an opportunity on Etsy anymore. And the thing that's funny is the answer to most of these problems is the thing you and I have been ranting about for years now, right? And we'll see some of the new things that are rolling out for sellers, but it's really easy when we see things like Etsy's transparency report, which is a super boring video we did that has gotten a lot of traction, which was kind of a surprise to both of us, where we dove in and looked at, oh, their AI bot is going crazy and taking down some listings and doing all of these things, right? It can be very easy to feel like doom and gloom because of all of the things that have been going on. And because it's really easy to get really focused on the one thing that's bugging you with the platform and forget about the second half of this, which is the opportunities and the things that Etsy are doing for sellers and the ways that they're trying to improve conversion rates, the ways that they're trying to bring more customers to the platforms. And it's not all bad news unless you are just selling t-shirts, right? In which case there's a lot more threats than there are opportunities in 2024. But with a few small changes that we'll talk about here today, you can get yourself out of that and back into a place where you're growing and stable again.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, we're going to show you guys some examples of the opportunity that's still there. And actually that is becoming even more of an opportunity for Etsy sellers. The one opportunity, I'll just give you right off the bat here. The one big opportunity is that there's a lot of Etsy sellers that are leaving the platform. They're going. What does that do for you and for me or my wife? What does that do? It lessens the competition, right? Because people are like, oh my gosh, I've got to get out of Etsy because, there's all these suspensions are happening and that might happen to me. So I'm just going to run the other way, or I'm going to go start a Shopify store and I'm going to leave Etsy. Fine. But you're also allowing us to have less competition because yes, that could happen to you. Is it going to suck? Yes. Will you have to deal with it? Yes. But there's so much upside still to launching your e-commerce business. And that's the key word there. I'm going to underline that. I'm going to highlight that business. A lot of people don't treat this as a business. They're like, I'm just going to go and try to sell some shirts on Etsy and see if I can make an extra $500 a month. There's other ways you can make $500 a month that's going to be less stressful than trying to compete with other people selling mugs and t-shirts. All right. We've all seen, the videos out there holding the mug that says $15,000 a month or the candle, not going to mention any names, but you guys understand what I'm saying, right? Like, you've seen that and that makes you believe that, but in actuality, everyone is trying to do the same darn thing. What people aren't trying to do as much, let me kind of emphasize that, is they're not trying to, what we've been preaching is building an e-commerce business. Okay. One that serves a niche, one that has products that people can buy, how to create, more expensive products, but also products that can go together that you can buy in one purchase. So now your order goes from a $20 up to $100 value, repeat customers, like all of those things, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But there's all of that happens when you're looking at this as a business and not just, I'm going to sell t-shirts. Okay. We're also going to show you some examples of brands right now that are doing very well, doing exactly what we're talking about. And I'm going to show you, I actually just saw this myself this morning when I was doing a little bit of prep work here for this, is I noticed that Etsy is actually rolling out some really cool little widgets and features that's helping us convert better on our listings. And so I'm going to show you guys that too. So stick around for that. All right, Chris, let's kick this thing off with, what are the threats? And where do you want to start with this? I know we've got like 3 or 4 that we're going to talk about here. And I think the one that we probably want to start with is AI, right? There's 2 sides to the AI that we want to talk about. And I think we're talking about one, there's a lot of people selling AI art, and we just did a video on this, which you guys, if you missed it, you probably want to watch that. But we did a whole video on it where Etsy has confirmed and announced that they're okay with AI and they're going to allow you and I to create AI. Now, is that bad? Watch the video. You'll see it's probably not bad. Okay. But with that being said, there is going to be a lot of crap being thrown up on the, on the platform, unfortunately. So then what's that going to do? What's that going to do for us sellers? Is it going to clutter the platform? Is it going to cheapen the platform? Like all of those things. And then we have the other side of AI that Etsy's using to basically try to automate things and try to clean up the platform, but actually is kind of backfiring right now. So Chris, that's the AI stuff that we want to talk about, right?
Yeah, so it's funny because every time you and I have talked about like AI or algorithms, I always give the comparison that everybody thinks AI is Terminator, and we need to think of AI more as like Wall-E, right?
Yeah.
In this case, if we're talking about the AI bots on Etsy, it does feel a lot more like the Terminator version of AI than the helpful little Wall-E robot version of AI. But I think with both of these things in mind, and actually Etsy CEO, Scott, as you said a minute ago, came out a little over a week ago and said, hey, we are allowing this on the platform. And before, they had never said that it wasn't allowed. We had gotten some statements from them saying, if you're using it as a design assistant, as long as you otherwise comply with the rules, fine. But we got an official statement from the CEO saying, hey, I think, and based on the internal conversations, AI is just a new way of creating art. And I got a lot of hate in the comments on that video for saying, hey, for actually using the same comparison that he did, which was electronic dance music, right? And people were like, oh, well, you can't make that comparison because somebody still has to click the buttons when they're making an EDM song to like bring the instruments together. I'm like, no, they don't, right? Like, yes, if you're doing it in the purest form, maybe, but also you can just type into a million different things, including Google's music creator. Hey, make me an EDM song about this or with this theme, and it will do it at this point. And it doesn't sound any different than something that somebody sits down and clicks all the buttons to create. And so it's something we have to deal with, whether we agree with the usage or not. It is something that we're going to have to deal with. And I think the point that you just made is one of the most important things that people miss with this. It's not about the usage of this. The biggest challenge on the product side is not that other people are using this to create designs. It's, for lack of a better term, the large amount of crap that will get uploaded to begin with, right? Junk designs. And that is the complaint that people have.
Sure.
And I could upload a bunch of designs that I created in Canva, and I guarantee you anything created by AI would look better than that. So what we have to start to think about is, how is Etsy thinking about this and how is Etsy dealing with this? And something Etsy admitted at the end of last year was basically, people struggle with Etsy search. And this is one of the big pushes behind gift mode, is they said, hey, we have a lot of new sellers coming in. And there was a statistic that we talked about in that Etsy transparency report video, Scott, where we said, hey, they have, I think it was 7 million sellers and 90 million buyers. And we keep hearing people say, oh, they have more sellers than buyers. from a pace standpoint. So they were bringing more sellers on
Mhm.
from a percentage standpoint,
Sure.
obviously, right?
Yep.
If you have 10 sellers and you bring on a new one, that's 10%. If you have 100 buyers and you bring on one new one, that's 1%. So if we're
Mhm.
looking at that on a percentage basis, it's a little misleading. But let's just say everybody uploads 100 products. Every time you're onboarding a seller, you start to pollute those search results. They have understood for a while now, and they were talking about this last year, that Etsy search has become less useful. And we're going to talk about SEO in just a little bit, but Etsy search has become less useful. And one of their ways to get around this and to make it more usable in the short term was to roll out gift mode, right? Which is basically an overlay on the search that stops people from having to try to search and filter and do all of these things. That to me is a huge way that they're trying to address this. And the other one, which initially blew up in their face, but I think eventually will work out into something, was their AI support bot. So basically the personal shopper. And they said people hated it because they weren't quite sure how to use it and all of those kinds of things, right? But everybody, Amazon, Shopify, everybody's working on their version of this. So as their way to try to filter out the junk, be it the AI uploaded junk, the junk uploaded by people like me who have zero design skills, or just what has become online generally a bad search experience, Etsy is taking a lot of steps to start to do that. It's just hard for us as sellers to think about it that way unless we're having this conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Here's what I also want people to realize. Like, I think a lot of people just focus on it because it's like, oh my gosh, AI, it's going to come in, it's going to ruin everything, it's going to clutter the platform. Here's the one thing, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, is the whole, okay, let's say that, I don't know, 100,000 more listings come on because AI makes it so easy to create designs. And Chris, I'm going to ask you this question because I know that you're going to have a really good answer. If I upload, or if there's uploaded 100,000 listings, and I would say, let's say that only like 5% of them are even getting a sale, and you sell something that is similar, going after the same keyword, but you're getting sales, are you worried as much about that product that's coming in with SEO and now there's more people that I'm competing with? Are you going to worry about that as much because you have a good product, you have sales, you have reviews, and these, these sellers that are just slapping up products? And I know we got a comment last time. They're like, I hate how you say slap up products or throw up products. Well, that's what they're doing. I'm just saying, like, let's be real here. That's what people are doing. They're creating junk and they're throwing it up. Sorry, not everyone. Like, there's some AI art that's beautiful. I would buy it for my home, but there's also some crappy stuff too. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So, yeah. So, Chris, what's your answer there? Are you worried so much?
No. Would you like me to elaborate on that, or was that
Yeah,
enough?
let me actually put you in full screen. Could you say that again?
No, I'm not worried about that. And Scott, you and I have talked 100 different times, and this is where we get back to like Terminator AI algorithm versus the Wall-E version, right?
Yeah.
The search algorithm and the traffic algorithm on Etsy is not the Terminator, right?
Yeah.
That's their AI scraping bot that took down 3.6 million listings, I think it was last year. And
I think it
a
was
good portion of
3.8.
those.
I think it was
3.8.
3.8.
Okay. So I'm
There's a video on it.
undercounting.
There's a video on it.
Yeah. It's almost like we did that, but that was like
It
months
just
ago.
came out yesterday.
Yeah, at least it feels like it, just given what's happened over the last 2 weeks. But, millions of listings were taken down. A good number of those did violate policy, and we know that. But I'm not worried about it because Etsy's search algorithm has one job, right? When you type something into any search algorithm, the job of the algorithm is to most properly answer the question. In the case of Google, they're literally answering your question, whether you phrase it as a question or not. In the case of Etsy, when you search for something on Etsy, the job of that algorithm is to show you the product or products that you are most likely to purchase once you click on them. And so if I have traffic and sales, I'm not worried about the listings. And Scott, one of the things you and I get asked all the time when we're talking about product research, right? We'll pull up something like an Everbee search results page, or we'll look at a product listing and analyze it. And they go, yeah, but how many results came up for that search? Is that something that you take into consideration? Because that's really how much competition you have. And the answer is no, because if they're not in the first few results, it's utterly irrelevant. Maybe if I'm selling 200 of whatever the product is a day, they might get one or two of those. But over the long term, what Etsy is looking at is which listing is performing better. If I'm spending the time to create that, sculpt that, and I'm using the niche-based approach, I'm almost always going to win out in search, especially when we combine that with something like Etsy ads. So I'm not worried about a bunch of people coming into my niche and launching, or in your words, Scott, throwing up a bunch of products. And I think the thing that people miss when they start having the AI conversation is they say, oh, it's really easy for people to go in and create 1,000 products. Okay, cool. But then if they go to launch all of those, they're garbage listings. The other thing I think that people miss with this, Scott, is, and this is a strategy that's taught by Etsy gurus on YouTube. I don't know why I threw the air quotes on the second version of that, but on YouTube.
This reminds me of Chris Farley and
Chris Farley, right?
Saturday Night Live.
If you want to be living in a van down by the river. I don't have a lot of friends. I have what people will call body odor. I showered this morning, just so everybody knows. You can't smell me through YouTube, and that's a blessing. But one of the strategies that's taught for how to create a ton of listings, because one thing you'll hear all the time is you have to have 1,000 listings or 500 listings to be successful on Etsy. That's utter garbage, right? We don't have anywhere near that in your wife's store. And in fact, a lot of the stuff that we have on there, we could probably not relist and be doing just as well, right? But you can do that just as easily in Canva. You can go in and create the Chris dancing avocado mug, right? And then create an Excel spreadsheet with 9,000 of the most common names around the world, and have Canva, not using AI, just Canva, create all 9,000 of those products, right? AI doesn't make a difference there. That's something that you could do before AI product designers were a thing. So it's not that I'm worried about the AI side of this. It's not that I'm worried about that with SEO, because I know if I'm driving traffic, if I'm in a niche, if Etsy knows who my customer is, and I'm getting sales on that listing, that I'm going to be able to outcompete. So AI is just the new version of this, right? It makes it a little bit easier to do, but it's not really a new phenomenon. People have been throwing up products on Etsy for a while, because the strategy back in 2015 was, let's just blanket the marketplace. This is the wild, wild west. And if I throw up 9,000 mugs, 15 of them are going to sell. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Hey, I want to give a little shout out to Vicky, one of our Backstage Pass Club members. Says, AI is here to stay. I choose to figure out who to use it or how to use it to my advantage. This has been much more productive than fighting against it. I love how Scott says, put your head down and focus. Yes, people, put your head down and focus. Like, it's a distraction, right? Try to use it to your advantage however you can. And I'll give you an example. I was talking to my wife just the other day about some AI stuff that she's been playing with right inside of Canva, by the way. So she's not even using like the Chat GPT and whatever the other ones are. I know Chris Dahlia or whatever it is, right? All of these different ones, which I'm not too familiar with, but Chris is. And so she's using, or Dolly, it's Dolly, I think it is.
Dolly,
yeah. So she's using the one right inside of Canva. You get a certain amount of credits with your membership and all this stuff, right? And she goes, I created a new design and I used about 9 to 12 different components from creating the AI. So you have to, and she goes, people complain about AI, but you still have to know how to compile and have an eye for design. If you don't, you're just going to come out a piece of crap. Right. And so it's like she said, and I looked at it and I'm like, I couldn't tell what part was AI and what wasn't. I just couldn't. Right. It's done that well and it looks great. And she's already sold some of these designs on a product. So I'm like, it's where people are just trying to shortcut it and just put in a couple prompts and spit out a whole bunch of stuff and try to just blast it out there. That's what we're talking about. And does that still hurt you? No, because you still have to have product that sells. It's not about quantity, right? And what we were hearing that from the gurus, last year, I think it was, and the year before, it was like, try to launch as many products as you can, like try to do 5 a day. This lets Etsy know that you're active, and that Etsy doesn't care that you're active. Etsy cares if you're making sales. That's what they care about. Sure. Do they want to see you're active with like replies and messages and making sure that you're shipping things on time? Absolutely. That gives you a credibility score in a sense, right? It gives you your shop store a higher credibility ranking, which they're going to then refer your products because you take care of your people. But they don't care that you're in there making a whole bunch of products and putting it up there. Now, does a new listing get a little bit more love? Sure. But if it's going to give it a little love up against a product that's already selling 5 a day and yours is selling 0, it's not much competition. Okay. So anyway, a little bit of a rant there. went on a little bit of a rant. Guys, do me a favor. I see some people coming in. They're saying that it's their first live. Thank you for showing up, and let us know in the comments if this is your first live or if you're a repeat. If you're a repeat, guest of our live streams, we'd like to know that. And also, I'd like to know: are you using AI in your business right now? Let us know in the comments if you are in fact using AI, if you're embracing it, or if you're just upset about it. Let us know in the comments. All right, cool. Where we want to go now? Well, I think we've beat the AI thing to death. I think we're good there. Is it a threat? I don't really think it is. To the, I'll give you this. It's a threat to people that consider it a threat, and that's making people run. So to me, goes kind of in the advantage bucket, into the opportunity bucket, because everyone's leaving and it just thins things out. So
AI from a product creation perspective is a threat if you are in the spaghetti at the wall or general store, let's launch everything 5,000 t-shirts approach.
Yeah.
If you are in the niche-based approach, it's not a threat. And Scott, you said something a minute ago. You said new listings get more love. And you've probably heard about this, right? There's like the Etsy boost when you create a new listing. The only reason for that is because Etsy wants to see how a new listing competes against existing listings. If it doesn't outsell your product, which means they had a better design than you, whether it was created by AI, 14 guys in India that they have on payroll, or just Canva spitting something out, right? If they're outselling you consistently, once they get that little bit of an Etsy boost, then there's something wrong with your design, your listing, your title, right? That's on you at that point. And it doesn't come down to AI. It just lets people pump things out a little bit faster. So from a product creation standpoint, AI isn't something to worry about unless you are volume, right? Style over substance, right? We're trying to launch as many listings as possible. We're trying to compete to just sell more dancing avocado mugs, whatever it is. That is where it starts to become a problem. But if Etsy knows who our customers are, we're creating good quality listings, even if those AI products take off for a little bit because they get that initial batch of impressions out of the Etsy boost when they first create that listing, we're going to outconvert them. We're going to consistently outsell them. And if we're not, then it's not AI's fault. It's our fault for not creating a better design or a better listing. And we need to look at the numbers and analyze that. And I think the bigger threat here, and this ties into the next thing we were going to talk about, is Etsy's AI bots and how that has tied into customer suspensions, or seller suspensions rather. I wish in some cases they would be suspending some customers. And I think everybody can leave me down a comment about one of their horror stories that they've had with an Etsy buyer. But what are your thoughts on what's going on with the suspensions? And I know we've done a few videos on this and everybody's saying, hey, like I was considering starting an Etsy store. Now I'm really on the fence about it because I'm seeing all of these stories about people getting suspended. So what about the combination of those two things, Etsy's AI bots and the suspension issues?
Yeah. So, okay, let's spend a little bit of time here. And I want to move on shortly here, get into the opportunities, because I know we're talking all these threats and these bad things. We have to address them. I think personally, like the AI bot thing right now that's happening, it is an issue, and I think they know it's an issue. I think Etsy does. They've actually acknowledged it. So, are they going to fix it? Probably. Right now, is it broken? I think it is. I think there's I think it's flagging, but then here's where the problem is. And we did a whole video on this, trying to get the CEO, Josh Silverman, trying to get his attention. We're going to keep doing it. And by the way, if you have not watched that video, I'm going to drop it in the comments. So this way here, you guys can go there, in the description. I'll put it in the description. So this way here, you guys can, you can help us out and like it and comment, and we can just keep trying to drive that video. But the problem in it right now is it's flagging. That's fine. Okay. I mean, it's not fine, but it's fine, right? It's flagging. It's doing its job there. But where it's failing is now it's having another, it seems to be AI bot or someone in support that doesn't really understand it other than, oh, it's gotten flagged, delete, suspension, whatever, right? There's not a lot of human review there. And if it is, we did the math because Chris pulled up from the transparency report that Etsy put out. You know, it would take if they had 100 people doing this, only 100 people, they'd have to do like 50, like in a matter of like, you know, minutes or an hour. And it's like, there's no way possible. You could literally look at that and go, oh, no, that shouldn't have been flagged. Or, oh, that one's flagged. This is why. Okay, good. It seems as though it's either another bot that's not working well, or it's someone that they hired third party, right? That is coming in, and they have a whole bunch of these that come on their desk, and they're just like, basically just, this is what we want you to see. If you see this, just hit it, suspension, delete, permanent suspension, template, bang, right? We need more support there. And I think that will eventually come. But right now, I think because they have such an influx of sellers and an influx of listings, they're trying to do something to kind of like take the fire and kind of douse it a little bit. It's just, they're putting a little too much water on the fire. We got to kind of, play with that a little bit. But I don't think it's a huge issue with the AI bot up front. I think that can be tweaked. I think it's the second half of that, of where it's being reviewed.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And if you read through that transparency report, no reason to do that. There's a video on it. We did that very, very boring work for you.
Yeah.
They said, yeah, well, we just use that to flag it. And then they're all human reviewed, right? And we said, okay, Etsy has about 2,400 employees as of their last quarterly report. If 100 of them, which would be a pretty substantial thing, do nothing but look at these listings all day, and we only calculated, Scott, this based on the number of listings taken down, not the number of listings flagged, they would have less than 5 minutes if they took 0 bathroom breaks, never went to lunch, never stood up to stretch, never did anything else to analyze the listing and make a decision on it. They also have a policy that it must be analyzed within 48 hours. Now, that sounds good on paper until you start to think about the fact that maybe we should be doing this based on quality and not quantity, right? It's very easy to fall in the trap. And I think I shared this example the other day. Let's say, Scott, your job is to review 100 of these today, right? You look at the first one, obvious policy violation. You look at the second one, obvious policy violation. The third one's a little bit iffy, but when you dig into it a little bit, obvious policy violation, right? You start to get into a groove there and you go, well, that just looks like this one. Clearly they violated the policy. And you just start clicking delete, delete, delete,
yeah.
take down, take down, take down, because you only have 4 minutes. So you can't really do a deep dive anyway. And the first 30 times today that you looked at it, the robot was right. So why would you question the robot at that point? You just get into the groove. And they're not measuring this based on the quality of those results, at least based on that report. They're measuring it on the quantity of listings that they process rather than doing it in a more intelligent way. And I think, again, no platform has really solved this problem. YouTube has their own problems here. Amazon has their own problems here. But we need to be a little bit less reliant on what was flagged and more reliant on what the actual policy violation is. I think one thing that would be very helpful with that is, I don't know, letting people know exactly what policy they violated. And I know the answer from our buddy Colin Stretch, their chief legal officer over there at Etsy, would be, well, we can't possibly tell them what they did because then people will just try to get around it. Well, yeah, only if they're breaking the rules, right? In most cases, you could say, well, I didn't violate that policy. Here's what actually happened. And then you can make an intelligent decision based on that. But what we're seeing, and we've seen this over and over again on the suspension side, is people will submit a review. It'll go through the human review process. They'll take it down. Somebody will appeal it. And they'll get an email within like 2 to 3 minutes of them doing that, saying, we did a thorough review of the listing, or we did a really thorough review of your account, and our decision stands. Scott, how long does it take to like open an email, read the email, and actually understand what's going on? Probably longer than 10 seconds, right?
Yeah,
so by the time you get through that, and then you open up the case and you go, okay, here's our evidence. Here's what they're saying it really is. That's going to be longer than 2 or 3 minutes, especially at the scale that we're talking about here. So I think the challenge for sellers here is that we don't have 100% control over this. But I think there are some things that sellers can do. And the biggest issue that we pulled out of that report came out of what a lot of Etsy sellers refer to as like the Etsy mock-up apocalypse, right? Which happened at the end of last year. And that is when that bot seemed to go a little rogue, and then they were just bulk taking down people because people had set their listings up incorrectly and were violating either the image policy or the handmade policy, or both, depending on which button the Etsy human reviewer pushed. And it turns out if you set your listing up properly when you're doing print on demand, that you're much less likely to be suspended. It's not going to take away that risk. It will always be a risk. But what we found when we started talking to people and we analyzed the comments, we analyzed all the submissions that we got, is that people were not setting up their print on demand listings with handmade with production assistance, meaning they were not indicating their production partner. And that led to a huge number of those suspensions last year. And then the other thing would be, if you're using a mock-up, make sure it accurately represents the product.
That's
if you
a big
do those
one.
two things, you can't eliminate that risk, but you do reduce it massively. And so, although it's always going to be a threat that hangs over your head, it's a threat that hangs over your head on any platform, even Shopify, right? Shopify can randomly decide that you're selling smoking cessation products, even though you're selling t-shirts, and take your store down or stop processing payments, right? Anything that they think violates their policy, that can go away. So what we have to do is just limit the risk there. And it feels like this is the sword of Damocles hanging over everybody's head, and any seller will be suspended at any point. And while technically that could happen, what seems to be the bigger cause for that is if we're missing a few small things along the way, those small things really add up inside of the Etsy ecosystem. We saw this on the trademark side of things, the trademark and copyright side, right? The thing that seemed to be funny there is the sellers that get suspended for that stuff, they get like 3, 4, 5 warnings. The people who are violating handmade policy, it feels like they get taken down a little bit faster, which feels odd, but also if they're analyzing all of your listings and they're going, well, all of these are print on demand and you didn't do any of them, that's strike 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 all at the same time versus having 1 or 2 things that are infringing on copyright. So if we're making sure we're not infringing on people's copyrights, not infringing on people's trademark, we're not selling Taylor Swift or Swiftie merchandise, and we're setting our listings up properly, we can really minimize that threat to be something that's a mild annoyance when it does happen, but not something that we have to be sitting in fear about or stopping us from creating the business to start with. If we take a few small steps along the way, just to make sure that we're doing things the right way.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm going to give a little shout out here to 12. It says, and hey, Scott, I got the email earlier. Congrats on 30 years. And if anyone else is wondering, yeah, yesterday was my 30th wedding anniversary to my wife, Lisa. So yeah, thank you so much for all of the messages that I did receive. I did send out an email, a little bit of a personal message, and got a lot of great emails. So if you did send an email, I want to say thank you for the nice message. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been a great ride, and getting ready for the next 30. We're gonna do some really cool things. So thank you so much. All right, Chris. So we pretty much talked about the threats, and we can go into it. Like, there's still like 2 more. Support is another threat, I believe. And what I mean by that is like, it's an issue. Okay. And it's a threat to our business, because if the support doesn't get there to where it needs to be, we could be very vulnerable to the platform. But like you said, Chris, doesn't matter what platform we're on, we're always going to have that. Chris and I have sold on Amazon for years. Okay. Built a couple of different brands on Amazon. I know friends of mine that have built businesses on Amazon doing 7 figures a year, $100,000 a month. And within 1 day, that account gets suspended and it's in a 30-day review period. Right? So it just doesn't matter what platform you're on. You're always going to be susceptible of that. But that's why we talk about build this as a brand, as an e-commerce business that can sell products to a niche. You can have your own website, your own Shopify, like whatever. And you can have your own email list, which we're a huge fan of. You guys probably already know that. And we could take that entity and bring it anywhere we want, or we can make that our central hub. We can work backwards if we want to. And that's kind of what we suggest, using Etsy as your launch pad, right? Because there is a lot of things that are opportunities for the new seller and for the new business, and to really kind of get your feet wet, but also to get in front of that traffic, right? So support is an issue. Okay. And what I mean by that is the support that we receive as sellers. Because if you do get a suspension, I believe they owe us the explanation as to why. Like, give us the reason why. And I mean, we did a whole video with Vlad, or on Vlad's store, Tag Pup, I believe is his brand. And basically, he was doing $100,000 a month just before Christmas, his 4th quarter, and they shut him down for a $7 payment on another account that he opened up that he forgot about. Now, to me, Etsy, if there's someone on the Etsy board that does see this, or any of the other videos that we did that we highlighted this, you have to ask yourself, who was in charge of that? Because whoever's in charge of that lost your company, Etsy, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, you should be fired. right? So that's kind of what we're talking about there. The threat is still there as far as your to your business for having the lack of support. And I do think after they start to kind of get this AI stuff locked in as far as like how they can flag, because they got so many listings now, they got so many businesses now that they're figuring out a way to automate that and to make it where they can use AI to help them manage that. It's on the other side that we're hoping that the support thing is going to is going to give us more with maybe a rep, or maybe that you can actually talk to someone, or you can escalate it if you have a problem, or maybe if you're over, $5,000 a month in sales, you get to a rep. Like there's different things that they can do. So that's all that we're saying there. And then the other part of that was, like I said, the suspensions, and just that right now it seems like there's a lot of new sellers that are getting flagged early. And a lot of times I think it's to either do with banking information, or they're going to hold the money to make sure, because they've probably already had people scam the Etsy system. Right. And now they're trying to put things in place. I mean, I don't even know, Chris, is it official that they actually rolled that out, that new sellers have to pay that fee up front now to open up their shop? That is official?
Yeah, and they have it. They never said it applies to everyone. They said it will apply to select sellers, but it seems to be being applied to everyone.
Okay.
And Scott, I know we've had a bunch of people in the comments saying, "Oh, this is why I'm building my own website." So all the threats that we are talking about, is this something that it only exists in the Etsy platform? Or, and again, this is like a question of levels, right? Or scales. Are all these threats things just that are threats to e-commerce businesses in general in 2024 and beyond? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, like we're talking about different platforms. We're talking about your own e-commerce. We can talk about Temu or Temu. I think we learned that it's Temu is how you actually pronounce that. But I think there's always going to be these outside threats, right? Whether it's on the platform itself, or if it's an outsider like Alibaba, like Temu, like, any of them, right? Like there's always going to be these threats that could affect your business. Heck, a brick and mortar could be in business, and then they decide to do a bridge that's going to take 4 years to get done, and no one can get across the bridge to their shop. Well, what are you going to do? Right? Like you can't get people over. You can't fly them over. Right. So the way that I look at it, Chris, is there's always going to be these threats to your business. That's part of business. It's just how can we create ways that we're not so susceptible to these? And one way is don't put all your eggs in one basket. As simple as that.
Yeah, and I think that no matter where you start, whether you're doing what you and I have been talking about, which is using Etsy as your jumping off point or your launch platform, and then doing that, or you're starting on the Shopify side and coming back, or WooCommerce, right? Or wherever, eBay, right? And then coming over to Etsy, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to have diversification. Just like if all of your sales are coming from Etsy ads, maybe you want a different traffic source, right? If all of your sales are coming over that one bridge that people need to get to,
right?
Maybe you want to find another way. Maybe you want to start an online store, right? In case the city decides to do a little bit of construction, or I don't know, the motor on the giant boat dies and takes out the entire bridge, like just happened a couple months ago in Baltimore, right? It doesn't matter physical, digital, where your business is. We can never be dependent on just one channel, just one thing. And Scott, that leads me into some of the opportunities in 2024. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So we've been talking doom and gloom for the last 25, 30 minutes. And I know we've been injecting some of our thoughts.
Who wants some opportunity? Who wants some opportunity? Let us know if you guys want some opportunity stuff now. Let's get a like. Let's get a comment. Let's get a subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel. Go ahead, Chris. We gotta promote this channel, man. Come on, we're almost at 100,000 subs.
And 12 says, preach and teach, right? Getting those hands up in the air. Right. And Blissbomb said TikTok shops are also very vulnerable. And that I think is another good example of exactly what we are talking about. Right. TikTok, although they did have, kind of a big takedown a couple months ago, they didn't do anything. And now potentially the entire platform is going away because the government said, hey, they're coming from China. They want your data, not realizing that like Facebook already has all of this information. Right. They're like, oh, they're stealing all of our information. Yeah. But also the US government already has it. And so does Facebook and Google and, Amazon and all of these other places. So it's something we can't be dependent on. But I think one thing that's interesting here, Scott, is with all of the people. And that was a great comment you just pulled up, which was something about, people are leaving the platform or they're getting suspended instantly because they're not setting something up properly. And so it feels like less of an opportunity. I would say for existing sellers, this is a huge opportunity. And for new sellers, I think it's something that as long as you set everything up properly and they don't do something silly, you don't get suspended by a bot, right? Which isn't something you really have control over. But as long as you're following the steps, like we were talking about a little bit earlier, we can minimize that chance. That means everything that Etsy has been doing to bring in more customers, all of the new ads that they're running this year, all of the things that they're trying to do to change that ratio of new sellers versus new customers means that there's more potential on the platform, because for every seller that goes away, all of the sales that they were getting are now up for grabs, right? If your account is closed or you decide to close your account, everybody that was coming to you, all of that SEO that you had, right? All of that traffic has to go somewhere. It doesn't just disappear. And I think that is something that a lot of people are missing. They're saying, oh, all of these sellers are leaving the platform or all these sellers are going away. That's not necessarily a bad thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, again, we can kind of keep beating on this, but it's like the bottom line is like, I mean, we just saw some comments come in too, like, just got suspended from TikTok and hadn't even added one item. LOL. You know what I mean? Like, so I just look at like, there's e-commerce isn't going anywhere, but there's all of these outside forces. And I just think like right now, we can't focus on the doom and gloom. We should focus on the opportunities. And I'm going to leave it at that. And that's why I think we should kind of get into the opportunities. So
yeah, let's do it.
What are the opportunities on Etsy with all of this doom and gloom that's happening in all of the forums and all of the Facebook groups, like all of this stuff, right? Like everyone's getting shut down and, everyone's leaving the platform. Well, that right there is an opportunity in itself. When everyone else is leaving, you should probably hang around because there's going to be probably more opportunity there for you. But the first thing that I would say that a lot of people don't realize is getting started and starting an e-commerce business, because that's really what I want everyone to take away from this right now. And that is, you're not building an Etsy business, you're building an e-commerce business. All right. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Etsy is a platform. It's a great platform to start on and to also leverage if you have an existing e-commerce business. So we recently had one of our students on a coaching call and they told us, I'm doing this in reverse. I've already had a Shopify store. I'm already doing thousands of dollars through the store, but I thought I'd add Etsy on for another revenue stream. So Etsy, to me, if you're brand new and starting, great launchpad because it's easy. It doesn't take a lot of money to get started, right? You can get started very, very easily. You can use print on demand, which we're a fan of, or you can make handmade items if you want to, and you can be up and running in no time. The other thing is they give you what everyone is going to have to get if you're starting your own website or your own Shopify, and it's a big one, traffic. People don't think about that. They're like, I'm going to leave Etsy. I'm going to leave Amazon or whatever, right? But you're going to go over somewhere else on your own website and you're going to have to try to find traffic and get that traffic pointed to you. So that's the big one. They give you traffic. They're advertising now on TV. They did a Super Bowl commercial, right? They're trying to drive more attention. They just launched gift mode and now that's going to be their thing. So that to me is a huge, massive opportunity, is being able to leverage what they've already built as far as a customer base. And they're spending dollars that you're not spending. Okay. Yes, you're paying a fee to sell on there and you're having to pay that, but you wouldn't have been able to get in front of that traffic. Okay. Yes, you might want to use Etsy ads to get more exposure. Oh, well, Etsy's charging me to get more exposure. Yes, they are. They're a business and they have to survive and they have to, satisfy their stock investors, of course, right? But they're still giving you the opportunity to be seen and to get in front of those people. If you want to pay or if you want to play, you got to pay kind of thing, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to pay for ads, but it is a good idea, I think. And that's another opportunity that we get. The other great opportunity is we get the traffic, right? We get to get in front of that traffic. And from there, we also get to use some marketing tools that they give us inside. The one that I love is what I call their internal email marketing tools. So if someone favorites your item, you can set up a coupon and you can send them a coupon code. Okay. If someone just checks that little heart, right? And they say, oh, I'm going to favorite that. Boom. They automatically will get an email from you if you set that up. The second way that you can interact with these people is, well, if someone adds it to their cart, but they don't buy, that's what we call an add to cart coupon. They've got that built in for you. And then if someone does buy, they can go ahead and buy some more with a thank you coupon that says, hey, thanks so much for your purchase. Here's another 20% off your next purchase. Now, if you're not building an e-commerce brand and you're just selling one-off t-shirts or mugs, probably not going to get many more sales doing it that way. That's why we like to look at it as far as like building a brand with cohesive products that will go well together. This helps us increase our cart value. So instead of selling one t-shirt for $20, we might sell 5, or we might sell a t-shirt. We might sell, I don't know, a towel. We might sell a pillow, maybe a flag, like whatever else is related to that someone could add more or more of the same. Now, all of a sudden, we've increased our cart size. All right. And the other thing that we're always not thinking about, like I say we, but everyone else isn't thinking about, is we can still use this platform to build an email list. And I know there's going to be people that are going to say in the comments, Scott, you can't. Etsy came out with this year, you cannot build an email list. They will not let you email your customers. And those people are wrong because they don't understand what they actually did. What they did was they said third-party apps like Aweber, Everbee Email, you can't have API integration anymore. Fine. Okay. No problem. What that basically means is before we were able to get the email address and email those people. Can't do that anymore. Etsy says you have to get their consent. So how do you get around this? Very simple. You create what we call a VIP list where we are going to say, hey, if you'd like to get maybe a monthly free giveaway that we do, or maybe it's a discount of the month, or maybe it's special launch release discounts. If you'd like to be part of our VIP club, go here to gardenlovervip.com and you can go ahead and sign up to get it. Well, what are they doing there? They're giving you consent. They're saying, I want you to email me. Okay. And from there, you can email them. And you might say, well, yeah, but Etsy doesn't want you emailing them. Well, wait a minute. Didn't they just create something called share and save? Do you know what that is? That's a special trackable link that they want you to drive traffic to. And they've even said it that they want Etsy sellers to create newsletters that tell people about new products. Do you know what a newsletter is and how it's delivered? Usually by email. Okay. And we're going to send them emails. The big thing that people don't hear when they actually hear other people saying that you can't email your customers, you can't take their email address, copy it, put it into your email program and email them. You can't do that. You have to get their consent. But one thing you can do, and here's a little ninja hack for you, if you have not heard me talk about this in the past, is you can literally in that first message that goes out, which everyone has the first message that you can go ahead and customize and put anything you want in that message. And usually it's going to be like, hey, thank you so much for your order. We're working on it. We appreciate you buying from our small, company, family-owned business. Like I always like to sprinkle that in there. And we're working on your order and we're going to ship it out as soon as possible. And I'd also, while I got you, I'd love to invite you to our VIP club. Go here if you'd like to receive monthly giveaways, special discounts for all of our club members. That's it. So you can email your customer, but it's through Etsy, which they're giving you that. Okay. And it's going through their messenger. And then from there, you put your link in there and then it drives them over to a landing page, which can be created in Everbee email. And if you're not yet using Everbee email, I encourage you to, go through our link and you can actually, you can get I believe it's a free month. You can get a month free when you buy a month. So if you go to brandcreators.com/123 email, you can go ahead and get that. So check that out. But you build this little landing page, you direct traffic there, and it says put your name and email address in if you'd like to join. So you're giving the consent, right? So there's so much opportunity on the platform still, and there's still opportunity for you to build a customer base through the platform that you normally wouldn't have access to. So there's a lot more I could probably go into. Again, like I said, the opportunity of being able to get in front of these people and get in front of this traffic, this targeted traffic, and to be able to create listings and only pay when you sell something. Yes, you pay the listing fee, but that's pennies. Okay. But you're only paying when you sell something. And yes, if you want to advertise, that's up to you. I'm a big fan because the more customers that I can get and the more exposure I can get, bigger of the email list I can build. And if I build a bigger email list of people that are interested in what I have to offer, there's probably a good chance that I'm going to make more sales when I send email. It's just kind of how it works. So that's the opportunity that I see on Etsy and not all this doom and gloom. Chris, what did I leave out on that? I went on a little bit of rant.
I love it. And we got all kinds of people talking about email in the chat, which always makes me happy. As I said, and I say all the time, I love email. It's not always the answer to everything, but if you start with that, it will solve a lot of your problems, right? I think moving forward, Scott, 2024 and beyond, and actually, Etsy said this in 2023. Their focus is on brands moving forward, something where people can come back to the site, get the same experience over and over again. So not necessarily people who are just launching t-shirts, but something that people, buyers on the site can come back and trust. And they started rolling out a lot more brand focused tools and e-commerce focused tools in 2023. And we see that rolling out in 2024 and beyond. What we're seeing is that Etsy understands that they have a lot of sellers on the platform who aren't necessarily helpful, right? Scott, we talked about people being able to just come in and launch a million AI products and screw up the Etsy search results. One of the ways that Etsy is trying to get around that is by focusing their new tools and the new features around people who are using the niche-based or brand-based approach. The real secret to that is that's what we should be doing anyway, right? If you've been listening to Scott and I for any length of time, you will know that's always been our position. We should be using the niche-based or brand-based approach, specifically because not only is Etsy really starting to emphasize that from a seller support perspective and from a feature perspective, but the skills that you learn there, something like email, right, where we can learn in a nice little sandbox like Etsy, where we're getting traffic and sales from them, we can master the skills that we would need to have outside of the Etsy platform so that when we do launch our Shopify, WooCommerce, Wix, whatever platform we're using to launch our own website, we have the skills and ability to do it. So it is going to be, Scott, a lot harder for people to throw up 15,000 customized dancing avocado mugs with all of the most famous or most common names on it. But it doesn't mean the opportunity is going away. The platform itself, Etsy themselves, and the opportunity for long-term growth anyway is around building a brand that people can identify with. The other and less thought about thing here, Scott, is people talk all the time about SEO and how important it is on Etsy. Etsy has admitted, like we talked about when we were talking about some of the threats, that it's really hard for them to understand what the best thing is. And their search results, because of all of the new sellers, all of the new products, have gotten a little bit polluted. Well, something they've done for quite a while that no one really knows about unless you are a super dork like me and you read the entire Etsy handbook, you read all their documentation on SEO, is what they refer to as personalized search results. So if you come to Etsy and you buy only fishing stuff, they're going to be more likely to show you more fishing stuff, even if you type in a generic thing. Why is that useful? Well, if we're coming at this from the niche-based or brand-based approach, it means that we don't have to worry about a lot of those threats because we get a little bit better placement anyway for our ideal customers. And I see Etsy, especially with their SEO algorithm, moving more and more that direction because they're going more and more the brand-based approach. So if we can help Etsy figure out who our ideal customer is by launching products for a specific group of people, then all Etsy has to do, instead of trying to go through the millions of products in their catalog, they go, here's the stuff that fishing people buy. Oh, look, Chris's shop sells really well to fishing people. Scott Volker loves buying fishing stuff, so I'm going to show Chris's stuff a little bit more weighted, a little bit heavier in the search results, and he's going to get a little bit more traffic out of it. So if we're coming at this from the brand-based approach, not only are we setting ourselves up for long-term success, but we're giving Etsy exactly what they have literally told us for the last year that they want to see out of sellers on the platform. They know that even though they want to still have a handmade focus, they can't have just artists on the platforms. If they want to really get repeat customers, they have to have people on the platform who are at least willing to look at the data and make some intelligent business decisions on that. It's not to say you can't be successful as an artist or an artist type, but you are going to have to start using some of the feedback that Etsy gives you, like the search analytics, like the ads reports, to craft better listings and create a better experience for people. And if you're able to do even a little bit of that, you're going to be miles ahead of 95% of your competition, and you're going to set yourself up for long-term success.
Yeah, no, that's all good stuff. So it looks like I want to give a little shout out here. But my biggest auto coupon is abandoned at 30% discount. I get a 25% uptake on the coupon at $600 a month approximately. That's great. Like, think about that. That's like lost sales. So guys, if you're not taking advantage of that, think about that. Is that an opportunity? You set it up once and it auto triggers and auto fires. Like, do you realize in a pretty sophisticated email program it would take to do that, right? And expensive. They give you access to be able to do that. Just 1 second, Chris. So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about SEO and we talked a little bit about email. If you guys, again, we look at SEO strategically, but we also look at it as simplifying it. And the same thing with email. If you would like our SEO guide and our email guide, just put either one or both if you want to, but just put SEO in the comments and we will send you a copy of the SEO guide that we follow, okay, to help with SEO. And then the second one is email. If you're interested in building an email list and using email in your business, it's another free guide. Just put email in the comments and we'll make sure that we send you a copy over. All right. Chris, where were you going to go? I saw you had a point that you wanted to make there.
So you put up Elysian Workshop's post about their abandoned cart discount. And one thing we get all the time is like, well, why would I give away margin? Or like, why would I do this? Because 70% of your potential customers are abandoning their carts, right? Etsy is no better than your own e-commerce website when it comes to abandoned carts. Every study that's come out is somewhere between like 67 and 72 or 73%. So let's just call it 70 to make it a nice even number. Would you, and Scott, this is a not theoretical question. If you saw $600 in $100 bills laying on the sidewalk, would you just walk away from it or would you pick it up? Right? I know you would pick it up. You'd at least look around and you go, hey, is this somebody's cash? Right?
Yeah. It's going to get your attention.
If you're not setting up your abandoned cart coupons, you're just letting $600 blow away or whatever it is for you. And it's just silly, right? The argument that we get is like, why would I give up a little bit of margin? Okay, well, don't give them a 90% discount. Give them enough of a discount that it's an incentive and that you're not losing your shirt. And especially if you're using the niche model, we know that we're going to sell more than just that one thing. We know that we're going to have repeat customers. We know that it's worth getting them in the door the first time. So even if we were break even on that $600, it's worth doing. But so many sellers get caught up in the, I don't ever want to discount, or why would I do that? Because if they really want to buy the thing, they're just going to remember. And it's not the case. 70% of carts across all e-commerce platforms, all e-commerce stores are abandoned because people come in, they add it, and then life gets in the way. And Etsy gives us the tools to be able to take advantage of this. Let's use the tools that we are given and take advantage of it. Pick up that $600, use it to start your Shopify store, right? Use it to do whatever, but don't just let the $600 blow away for no good reason.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And again, like opportunity. So let me just kind of quickly go through, we've got other things we need to cover here, but let me just kind of go through, kind of like how to build a successful e-commerce business that can do well on and off of Etsy. And really it's 5 different points. And I've got a little list here that I put together because I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys exactly what that looks like. But if you want to leverage Etsy to help you launch your own e-commerce business, because once again, I've said this and I'm going to say it again, is I want the mindset to be you're building an e-commerce business. It just happens that we're going to launch on Etsy, or we're going to leverage Etsy's platform with the traffic, with all of the marketing tools, with the advertising that they're doing, the ability for us to advertise, all of that stuff. All right. So the very first thing that has got to happen is you have to pick a niche. And I know some people would argue and they go, but that limits me to only being able to sell to the garden people, if that's where I'm going. And the answer is yes, it is. But you're going to be so dialed in that you're going to serve that customer or people that want to buy gifts for that customer. And you're going to be that one that if you were to take and build a website, all right, if you were to build a website, all of your products would cater to that type of person. Now, you do have to look at the niche and you have to look and see and make sure there's enough demand of products that are selling. That's all in the research phase, which, by the way, we use Everbee to do that because it gives us the data. It gives us the details. And again, if you have not yet played with Everbee, or if you use it and now you're not using it and you want to try it again, you can try it for free. You can just go to brandcreators.com/Everbee. Just go to brandcreators.com/Everbee and you can try it for free. And maybe Chris will even throw that up on the screen for us. So the second part of this is once we have the demand, we know that there's a good demand for it, right? We're going to be able to hit our target. And that's the other thing that I should probably say here is you want to make sure that you're able to achieve the result that you need to achieve, because everyone's targets are going to be different. You may say, I just want to build a $50,000 a year per business. Great. Well, now you have to sell less products. So your niche doesn't have to be as, in demand as someone that wants to build something to $1 million, right? It's a completely different type of demand that we're looking at. So you need to get that first. Once we do that and we establish the demand in that niche, then we move on to creating product lines. I'm a big fan of product lines because think about it. If we can sell you one thing, why wouldn't I want to try to sell you a second, a third, and a fourth? It's so much easier to get you to buy one more thing or two more things, or maybe again in the future, because you're already interested in the first thing. So to me, it's just so much smarter to focus on the product line. And it could be 3 to 5 products to start. And then from there, you build on that. And all your focus is now is just on that. Is like, how do I create more products for my customer? And that's it. That's all you're going to focus on. But always keep it in mind, you're not just doing this for Etsy, you're doing it for your e-commerce business. Okay. Notice how I didn't say Etsy business? I never say that. It's the e-commerce business. Okay. Now, the third thing is leveraging the platform, leveraging Etsy or Amazon if you want to, or eBay if you want to, or Walmart if you want to, wherever you want to take your products, go for it. I would say Etsy right now is probably the best place to start because it's the easiest to get started. And there's not a lot of hoops to jump through and you can be up and running very, very quickly. All right. But you're leveraging the Etsy platform, but more importantly, the platform gives you traffic instantly. So the minute you go live on there, you're immediately potentially going to be in front of these people. And we can also use the tools inside, maybe their Etsy ads, and spend like $2, $3 a day and have traffic immediately the next day. I don't have to wait for SEO or anything yet. I'm just going to start getting sales. Okay. So that's the other thing that we get to do is we get to leverage the tools that are built in, the internal email coupons that we get to send, right? The follow-up sequences that we get to send them. Like if they buy something, we can send them a message through the Etsy platform, which they're cool with. We can build our email list, which leads me into number 4. All right. And that is building your email list, whether you do it on the platform or you do it off the platform. All right. And I know a lot of people still think that you can't build an email list or send email traffic to Etsy. They actually want you to. They have a program called Share and Save. And they did that because they want to reward you for driving traffic to the platform. Why would they do that? Why would they incentivize you to drive traffic over to the platform? Because it's traffic that you're bringing to everyone else too. Because once they get you on the platform, if you're not yet a customer of the platform or on the platform, they're going to get your credit card in there. You're going to become a customer of the entire platform now, right? So they want to reward you. So they take your fees and give you back a majority of them. Okay. So that's really, really cool. So building the email list is also a great thing that we get to do, because now we can take that email list and we can bring it wherever we want. We can point it wherever we want. You want to do a Shopify store? Go for it. You want to maybe open up an Amazon store. You can point traffic there and boost your rankings there. Like there's so much you can do with the leverage of that email list. But that's part of building a business, is we're building a customer base or even a prospect base, people that haven't purchased yet. All right. And then the 5th and final is creating back-end sales potential. creating back-end sales potential. And what I mean is, and I'll give you a little example here. Last week, I decided to send an email to my wife's Etsy shop because, well, I hadn't done it in a while. I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and send an email. And well, in the last 7 days, we were able to do just over, I believe from those 2 emails was just over $800. Okay. And that's from email. And what I did there though, was I was able to sell to my past customers and to some people that hadn't purchased. And Etsy inside of the platform shows you this was from a share and save link. It shows you that in little green in the order. And it also has a little star. And if you hover over the star, guess what that is? Repeat customer. Repeat customer. And we like that. So by doing this, niche with demand, creating product lines, leveraging the Etsy traffic, building the email list, and creating back-end sales, that is what we call an e-commerce business. It just happens that we're starting by using the platform Etsy because they have everything built in. They have the traffic, they have the tools, they have different things they're testing to try to increase the conversions that you don't have to worry about. And they're only going to use the things that work. A perfect example is they recently said that they did a test on the coupons that were getting sent out, and coupons that were less than 25% were not as effective. So guess what? Their default setting for you is a 25% off discount. Now, you don't have to give the discount, but they're saying we tested this amongst all of the different shops that we have, and 25% converts higher. We should probably use a 25% off coupon. And maybe it's just to launch a product. Maybe you don't make as much on that product, but you're going to launch the product. So these are things that we want to take away from the platform, but it also allows us to what? Build our customer base, our email list. And to me, that is the asset. And the products that we create is the asset. Okay. So that's how you build a successful e-commerce brand that does well on Etsy and off of Etsy. How did I do on that one, Chris? Is that clear? Is there questions?
I think that is crystal clear. We had a bunch of people saying, oh, okay, so like use Etsy ads for intel, use Etsy ads for data. Yes. And Scott, I think where people get caught up in this is not that they don't understand what a niche is or how to use a niche, right? It's something you and I have been harping on for years now.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't understand how to create product lines. It's really one of those last 3 things. It's using and leveraging Etsy's traffic, building the email list, which sounds super antiquated in 2024, but is still the highest return on investment marketing activity any e-commerce business can do, even in 2024 and beyond. And Scott, you brought up something here that I thought was extremely interesting. Number 4 really does lead to number 5, right? Building that email list leads to repeat sales. And I know you know this statistic, but it's something I wanted to share with everybody. We all kind of have some intuition that it's easier to sell something to somebody who's already bought from us. We've probably heard that repeated, but existing customers are 50% more likely to try the next product that you launch than a random person off the street. And they spend 31% more. And if we're using the niche-based approach that you and I have talked about, people ask us all the time, do you sell t-shirts or sweatshirts? And the answer is yes. And they go, how do you compete with all these people that are selling $12 t-shirts? We say, we don't. And they say, well, then do you sell any t-shirts? You say, yes. Why? Because they're willing to spend more when they're buying from a brand that they trust. So if we launch a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a mug, we price it at a place where we're going to make money, and we are able to generate demand from existing customers to get that taking off inside of the search results. We can sell products at a higher price to the existing customer base because existing customers are willing to spend 31% more, which I think makes a big difference. And I think what Etsy is after here, Scott, they have 2 key metrics that they report in all of their different quarterly reports. And it's something that is a huge focus for them. The first is the number of repeat buyers. And I forget exactly what the definition here is, but I think it's 2 or more purchase days in a year. And that is 37 million out of 91 million. So let's just call it 30%. I know it's a little bit more than that. Right. But the thing that they are really after, and the thing that all of you should be after, are what they refer to as habitual buyers. And Scott, when we ran the Etsy seller survey last year, or sorry, the Etsy buyer survey, rather, what we found was a huge portion of people, right almost on this same number, in terms of a percentage, we're buying 10 or 11 times or more per year. How would you like to have a bunch of customers? In the case of Etsy, generally speaking, we're talking 7 million out of 91 million active buyers are habitual buyers buying 10, 11 or more times per year. The easiest way to do that is with the brand building approach. And if we can get that foundation set on Etsy by focusing on a niche with demand, creating those product lines, then we're going to secure those habitual buyers. They not only are more willing to buy and try our new products, but they're more willing to spend more when they do it.
Yeah, no, that's all good stuff, man. Yeah, so I've got a bunch of comments coming in. We got some questions coming in. But that, I mean, honestly, guys, like that is like, it's a change in the way that people are thinking about Etsy because they're starting there and they were brought in there, right? They were brought in by the mug that's doing $15,000 a month or the shirt that's doing $11,000 a month, right? Like that's the thing that got you excited. Let me know in the comments what brought you to Etsy. Like what, I mean, yes, you're like, I want to make extra money or I want to build a business. But what brought you there? Like what got your attention? I'm just curious. If you can leave that in the comments, that would be good. The other thing I'd like you guys to do, take a little time out here for a second. If you guys are getting value from this, which a bunch of you already said that you are, but if you are, do us a quick favor. Can you like this? And that'll give us a little boost in maybe the YouTube algorithm, and leave a comment if you haven't done so already. Let us know like maybe what one of your biggest takeaways today was, and then subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. All right. We'd appreciate that. And yes, I probably should bring this up again too. If you guys, a lot of people want to know about the email stuff, right? SEO, yes, but the email stuff. We have a full guide on it, and it walks you through exactly our strategy and how we're using email. And if you want that, just put email in the comments and we'll make sure that we get you a copy. All right. Email in the comments and we'll send you that free guide. All right, Chris, do you want to jump into another little hot topic here? And do you want to kick it off or do you want me to? It has something to do with 3 letters.
Would those letters be S, E, and O?
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Yeah. So, Scott, you were talking about leveraging Etsy's traffic a minute ago, and the number one thing that gets you and I riled up, probably Etsy ads, right? And everybody should be using Etsy ads. But number 2, right behind that, and the much more talked about thing, is leveraging Etsy SEO to make sure that your listings are at the top. And I wanted to get your thoughts on what Etsy SEO looks like in 2024, and is it working for sellers?
Yeah. So let's dig into this real quick. Because I think people think right now that SEO is the only answer. I'm here to tell you Etsy SEO is broken. Okay. In 2024 for the people that are thinking that it is just about getting the good keywords, making sure that you have good images, making sure that you have the right tags. Don't get me wrong. That stuff is important, but it is not going to automatically make you rank higher because you found this secret keyword, the hidden keyword that no one else is going after. Guys, listen, if you find a product using Everbee, let's say, and you see that it's doing really well and you're like, I want to sell that. And you look at the keyword and you're like, oh, it's a gift for garden lover. And you're like, okay, that's my keyword. There's not going to be a lot of other keywords that are going to bring the same amount of traffic as that one keyword if you're looking at the sales. Sure, is there some miscellaneous ones? Yes, but you're just basically going to put them in your tags or put them in your title where they fit. And after that, after you've optimized your listing to the fullest and you've SEO'd it, what's going to help it rank? Sales, reviews, conversion rate. Like that's it. Okay. So right now, I feel like the teachings of SEO are broken because people are not understanding that there's way more that goes into it than just trying to come up with the right keywords, coming up with the right tags, coming up with the right images. Like I said, that stuff is important, but getting sales is really the driver that's going to get you to rank. So Chris, you as being an SEO nerd, I'm going to say it, Chris, you are an SEO nerd, and I'm glad to have you part of my life. What's your thoughts? And what are people missing? Like, are there any tricks that we're not doing that you could, maybe get yourself up there on number one? Anything, Chris?
First, I'm extremely offended. I'm a dork, not a nerd. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't really matter. You can call me whatever you want. I like looking at the data and seeing what's working. And Scott, I think the misconception with SEO is that SEO is about keywords. And I'm going to say this, and I know I'm going to get flamed in the comments for this. Search engine optimization, which is what SEO stands for, especially on Etsy and especially in 2024 and beyond, is not about the keywords. And I know everybody is screaming at their telephone or they're screaming at their computer as they're watching this and saying, what do you mean it's not about the keywords, right? I thought I had to put all these keywords into my title. I thought I had to squeeze everything into the description. I thought I had to fill out my tags. Scott, you just mentioned a minute ago that once you get some keywords into your title, tags, and description, that's pretty much all you control from an SEO standpoint. And if we're thinking about SEO from a text on the page standpoint, we are thinking about SEO completely incorrectly. And if you are doing SEO that way, your SEO is broken. And I know I'm saying those three letters a lot, and it should be said a lot because it's really a four-letter word at this point. SEO is not about the words that are on the page. It's about how well the words that you have on the page and all of the different variations of those, all of the things that they could mean, how well those match up to what customer expectations are. And there's really two things that determine whether your listing ranks once you've put a few of those words in there. One, does Etsy think you are relevant? And this is a very binary test. They look at all of the words that are in your title. They look at all of the variations, all of the misspellings of those words, all of the synonyms, all of the antonyms, right? The things that mean the same thing, the things that mean the opposite thing. This is not, it has to match exactly. It's, does this make sense with what the person is typing into the search bar? Yes or no? If no, then you don't show up. If yes, then you have a chance to show up. From there, Etsy is looking at whether or not you are a relevant answer to that question. They don't really care at that point what the words are on the page once you've passed that Tinder swipe yes, swipe no test, right? What they care about is how users, how customers interact with your listing. So if Etsy decides to show you after you've passed that test, do people click into your listing? If they click into your listing, do they buy your product? And if they're not buying your product, but they're clicking into your listing, maybe you still show up. If they're not clicking into your listing, then they can't buy your product and Etsy's going to stop showing you. It's not about the keywords. It's about the relationship between what the customer is searching for and what you have on the listing. I think the biggest mistake, Scott, that I'm seeing sellers still making as of the time of recording this video is that they think they have to squeeze in all of the variations of all of the different ways they could describe their product into the title instead of focusing on the user, right? SEO is about what happens when the user interacts with your listing and whether they think it's a product they can buy. If they think it's a product they can buy, do they buy it? I can have fewer keywords in my listing, and if I outsell you, I will outrank you on Etsy. It's not about the keywords, it's about the customer.
Yeah. And I would say also, because I know people are going to be asking, okay, that's great, guys. That makes a lot of sense. But how the heck do I get myself noticed? How do I get sales? And that's a great question. So I'll sum it up very quickly. We do have other videos on the channel that will help you with this, but this is what I would say for any new product or even a product that is, it's getting demand, but you're not getting the sales. So what you need to do is you need to look at the products that are selling well that you want to compete with and see how many sales they're getting per day. Let's just use an easy number, like 2 sales a day is what they are getting. And you're like, okay, cool. So now you have to try to get 2 sales a day or more. How do you do that? I personally would run Etsy ads and I would do a deep discount on that product for at least 7 days. I know what you're thinking. Scott, how am I going to make any money? It's not about making money on that part of it. It's making it on the back end, because once you get momentum and then you rise up in the search, you don't have to maybe spend as much on ads, or you can not discount your product as much, right? But the first thing we need to do is get sales. The other thing that sales is going to do is it's going to help you get reviews. What are reviews going to do? They're going to help you convert to a sale. See how it all kind of works? So in the beginning, a lot of people don't want to spend the money. They're going to wait to spend on Etsy ads until they start getting some sales. It's backwards. We have to get sales and reviews and conversions in order for Etsy to look at our listing and want to put it up higher in the search amongst others that are selling already. So that's how you can go ahead and get yourself ranked higher using SEO, but also getting sales. All right, Chris. So with that all being said, I'm almost out of time. I didn't realize it, but I am going to have to jump here shortly because I've got to take my daughter to beach volleyball. I just found out we have to leave a little bit earlier. So we're going to do that. I've got about 5 to 7 minutes, so we can go ahead and answer some questions. Do we have any questions that came up in the queue?
So first thing, Bailey Harris says, one of my top sellers is a design that a customer asked for on a different product. I listed it as normal, sent the link, she bought it, reviewed. Now it sells regularly in a very saturated niche. Sales are king.
Love it.
And this is the thing. People want to say, okay, this is the Chris dancing avocado mug, right?
Love it.
Probably
Yeah,
the
beautiful.
best gift I've ever gotten, because I think we use this as an example on every live stream because it just happens to be in front of me, right? So I'm going to put avocado, dancing avocado, mug, cup, teacup, coffee cup. That's going to be my product title, because there's no way Etsy could possibly understand what this is unless I shove all of those things in there. That just tells me they've never read the documentation, right? If you've read what Etsy talks about in terms of their algorithm, they say, we understand plurals, we understand synonyms and antonyms. And so if you just write personalized dancing avocado mug, you are relevant for all of the same search terms you would be if you shoved all of those things in there. And someone like a real human being, which is who, at least at this point in 2024, is still making the purchase decision, would understand what that is versus mug, dancing avocado, mug, coffee cup, right? You're like, what? And so you ignore that. Focus on the people, focus on the traffic, and focus on the sales. That will get you higher rank than finding the perfect combination of shoving in all of the keywords. Scott, I already answered this in the chat, but I thought it was important. Fatty Pancake said, if someone favorites an item, we were talking about getting people to favorite and abandon carts and setting up those emails. Do you know if it goes out in separate emails for everything that they favorite? I've noticed that people favorite like 5 or 6 items in a row. And the way that this works with Etsy is when you set that email up, specifically on the favorites, they send out one email every 7 days, and they will feature up to, I think it's 6 or 7 items in that email. The other thing is it typically won't go out for like 48 hours after the first favorite, because they do give a time to account for people accidentally favoriting something. So if you have somebody coming into your shop, they're not going to get that email back to back to back on all of those things. The same thing applies for any of the new item notifications or abandoned carts. They don't just beat people over the head with all of those things. They do let a little bit of time in between. We had a question from Emily who said, why is it that some items I run on Etsy ads get literally no views and Etsy just doesn't show the ad? What determines how often it's shown? The total number of times that somebody is searching for something that item could be shown for, right? So if we're talking dancing avocado mug, right? How many times is somebody typing in mug? That would be the maximum number of times that our ad could show. In most cases, when Scott and I have looked at people's ads and they go, I don't know why a product isn't showing. If you go look at the keyword volume, it's like 8 for the entire month. Right? So the most common reason there would be that there's just not enough demand for what you're selling. And that is a huge mistake that we see people making.
Let me throw this one up here real quick. Oops, skip there. This one. Do you guys know which platform gets the most views? Shopify, Wix, etc. I mean, if you open a shop, does one of these get more views? No, they don't get any views because for the most part, you have to drive traffic. Shopify is just a website builder. Wix is a website builder. You have to supply the traffic. That's the advantage of being on a platform like Etsy. It's built in. They have traffic, and that's what you're basically getting in front of. So yeah. Chris, before we do, I don't want to run out of time. We had a couple more that were in there, but I did want to say, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Well over 225, 50. I think there was 250 at one point. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. We had a couple other things we were going to talk about. We might end up coming back on. I don't know. We'll see. If we have any time on Friday, if we can maybe pop on for an hour or half hour, whatever. We got a couple other things we wanted to discuss that are, kind of in the Etsy news world. But I did want to say, a little shameless plug here for our Backstage Pass Club. I'm going to throw that up here real quick. We do a basically Etsy shop audits, and we have them on here every Thursday. They air on the YouTube channel. We're basically batch recording these with a live audience. Okay. And those are done inside of our Backstage Pass Club. We do 3 at a time. And then what we do is we push them out, weeks later. Okay. So like right now we might have like the one coming out tomorrow. It was probably recorded 4 or 5 weeks ago. Okay. So what we do is a batch recording session. It's kind of like this format, but then we will do 3 Etsy shop audits for Backstage Pass members. All right. And you can sit in on it, ask questions. If you want to join that, it's literally under $10. And you get access early to all of the Etsy shop audits before they air. And then also you get to ask questions if you have any during it. Yeah, we have a really good time hanging out with people as we're doing these. And, Chris and I thought, you know what, why not create like a Backstage Pass club where people can sit in on it? And it's been a lot of fun. We've been doing it now for about 4 months. So it's been really, really fun. So if you guys are interested, you can just go to brandcreators.com/club. Or if you're on YouTube, which you probably are, there should be a little join button next to our subscribe button. And you can click that. It'll be a little video of me explaining what it is, but it's pretty much what I just shared with you. So if you want to join us next Thursday, we're going to be doing one of those live Etsy shop audits. That's next Thursday. Tomorrow, one will be airing from, like I said, about 4 weeks ago. So you can go ahead and check that out. And if any of you are Backstage Pass Club members, you can kind of see with their badge, by the way. If you guys could let people know. You guys enjoying them? You guys liking these, being part of the Backstage Pass Club? Are they worth it? Are they worth the $9.99? Just let us know in the comments. And if you don't think so, let us know that too. I think you're going to say probably yes, but we sit on there for like 3 hours doing Etsy shop audits. So, all right, Chris, I've got about 3 minutes. Anything quick we can blaze through?
Woodcrafter said, when is the next shop audit? Next Thursday?
Next Thursday.
As of the time of recording this. So what is the date on that, Scott? I believe it's the 30th.
Yeah.
Bailey said, Etsy shop audits are so helpful, so fun, and so worth it. If you can't get enough of Scott and I, it's definitely worth coming on and getting 3 hours of us frantically changing shirts and recording as much content as we possibly can. Looks like Chris Wade just jumped in as a new Backstage Pass member.
What's up, Chris? Thank you. We'll see you in the club.
Tires Essentials said, Shopify's like building a store in the middle of the desert and directing people there. Etsy's like opening a store in your local shopping mall where customers are already shopping.
Great analogy.
There's nothing wrong with building a store or building a gas station in the middle of the desert as long as there's some traffic that's coming through there eventually, right? Anybody that's driven through Nevada can identify with this, right? There's like 8 hours between northern Nevada, where Reno is, Scott, and Las Vegas. And there's pretty much nothing there, but every place there's a gas station. There's 700 people, right? If they're able to get traffic, it's a good thing. And Alicia said, hey, it worked for Vegas. And that's the thing. Once we start getting traffic there, right? Once we start building the few different little buildings there, we can get some people in. But we have to build the demand versus going somewhere where there already is demand. What is the best way to get reviews? Follow up with your customers.
Yep.
Right? If you follow up, send that message, say, hey, how did this work out for you? They're much more likely to leave a review versus just letting them forget about it. Hey, did you have a good experience? Would you mind going and sharing your honest feedback? Elysian Workshop, Scott said, I heard the CIA controls Etsy search placement. You heard it here first. They very well might. Who knows? Fruitanical Ware says, has anyone else seen the smart pick for you on their Etsy homepage in the app? It's a really good thing and reinforces the cohesive niche shop strategy. And Scott, this is something you and I have been talking a lot about. We looked at some of the different things and some of the examples that we didn't get to here today that they are doing on listings on desktop, where they are showing bigger countdown timers. They're showing this is the best deal that you could have gotten in the last 60, 90, 6 months, right? Whatever that is. They're showing 20 people in the cart, 18 people bought this in the last few days. Yep. Why are they doing that? Why are they adding a lot of these things in? And I think this is something that gets missed in the conversation about all of the weirdness that's happened on Etsy. Etsy is doing a lot to turn more browsers into buyers, more buyers into repeat buyers, and more repeat buyers into what they call those habitual buyers, which right now are about 7 million of the 91 million active buyers on Etsy. They know if they can get people to come back and buy, or to buy for the first time, just like we were just talking about, Scott, right? What is the key to a successful long-term e-commerce business? Getting that first purchase. What do repeat buyers do? They're 50% more likely to try new products, and they spend 31% more. So Etsy is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down, both in the app, and a lot of times you'll see those features roll out first on the app and on desktop to make sure that they're turning more of those browsers into buyers.
Yeah, love it. All right, guys, that was awesome. That was a great session. Like I said, stay tuned. And subscribe if you want to be notified when we go live again, or because we usually plan them a day ahead of time. Like on Wednesday, we'll put it out on Tuesday. But I'll talk to Chris, see if he's got any availability. Maybe we pop on here again on Friday. We did have some examples of some brands that we wanted to share with you, with some products, with some cohesive brands, how they're building them. And we also had some, pretty cool news that Etsy had released, and also something that they stated, and not sure if that's going to work. But we'll go ahead and address that maybe in an upcoming live, and it may be next week or it may be this Friday. We'll see. I'll talk to Chris and we'll see if we can make that happen. All right, guys. So, someone wanted to know, Chris, how they get a shop review. If you go to, I'll leave it with this. It's the brandcreators.com/audit. There it is. Yes. If you go there, just to let you know, our club members always get priority. So if you are a club member, you will be tagged as a club member, and then you'll be put on the master list, but you'll just be moved ahead. But right now, we do have a pretty good sized list, but we're working through it. And so that's how you would get a shop audit. Now, if we run out of our members' shops to audit, then we would go into the non-members. Yeah, that's how you can get an Etsy shop audit. All right. And they're a lot of fun, and we do have a good time. So anyway, that's it. Tomorrow, there will be a new Etsy shop audit being released on this channel. So once again, make sure you subscribe and do us a favor, like this, and let others know. If you found this useful, invite them on over. Tell them to come on over. You got to go over to that Brand Creators YouTube page. They do a pretty good job over there. That'd be awesome if you would maybe give us a little recommendation. All right. And let us know in the comments, what's your biggest takeaway today? What's the biggest takeaway from today's live stream? Take care, guys. We'll see you next time. I got